everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. I'm your host, Juliana. Hey everyone. At Zone to Speak, I know how important it is to stay healthy, strong, and ready for every ride, workout, and adventure. That's why I am sharing some amazing discounts on products I personally love, designed to support your health, performance, and overall well-being, whether you are an athlete or just looking to feel your best. Cyc Plus. Their smart pump is a game changer, compact, efficient, and perfect for keeping your tires road and gravel ready. Plus they have radar tail lights, smart trainers, smart fans, and more. Get 10% off the smart pump and 5% everything else. 15% off New Zest. Fuel your body with clean, plant-based nutrition. Their clean, lean protein provides a high-quality, easily digestible protein source with no artificial additives. Perfect for recovery and sustained energy. Plus, they have Good Green Vitality, which is packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to support your immune system and overall wellness. 20% off First Endurance, top-tier endurance nutrition designed to support hydration, recovery, and sustained energy for long days on the bike or any endurance activity. 35% off Frey Skincare, made for active lifestyles, designed for skin that sweats. Their all-natural vegan and cruelty-free products keep your skin protected and fresh. I have been using Frey for about 10 years and my skin stays young and has never had a breakout since. 10% off Cold Age, high-quality supplements to support your health, from multivitamins to probiotics, collagen, and more. I personally take the women's fermented vitamins, the collagen, and creatine. 10% off Clearly Not Coffee, a delicious coffee alternative made from functional ingredients like mushrooms, maca, cinnamon, and rhodiola, designed to give you calmer energy, sharper focus, and immune support. I take this every morning. I love how it tastes, and I don't have any energy crash during the day. 15% off Omre Supplements, premium supplements to support your training, recovery, and everyday health. And there's something special from me, your host. As a certified integrative health, nutrition expert, and holistic life coach, I'm offering 25% off personalized nutrition and life coaching with Genki Wellness. If you want to optimize your health, improve your energy, or simply feel your best, head to bemoregenki.com. For all discounts, check out the episode description. Use code ZONE2SPEAK at checkout and let these incredible products support your health and performance. Now, let's get into the episode. In this episode of Zone to Speak, I sit down with Laura King, cyclist, community builder, and passionate advocate for women in cycling. Laura has had an incredible journey in the world of athletics, from racing competitive triathlons, including the Ironman World Championships, to immersing herself in the gravel scene, co-funding the hugely popular Rooted Vermont event, and working with the cycling industry to foster inclusivity. Beyond racing and event organizing, Laura has been a strong voice for women in cycling, helping to create more opportunities for female participation through mentorship, clinics, and community initiatives. She's also navigating the unique challenge of balancing motherhood with being an athlete, cycling through both her pregnancies and proving that sport and family can coexist. I'm really looking forward to diving into Laura's journey, her career highlights, her advocacy for women in cycling, and how she's redefined success through different phases of life. Let's get into it. Laura, welcome to Zone to Speak.
Thank you, Juliana. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to chat.
Thank you. So you had two kids. I think it felt back to back. They are adorable, by the way. I love all the stories and you're sharing them with everyone.
Thank you very much.
How has motherhood changed your approach to cycling and competition, if changed at all?
Yeah, it's changed it in many ways. I'd say the first way I see it changing is it's provided me such a balance of perspective. I love having motherhood coexist with racing because it's a constant reminder of kind of what really matters. That at the end of the day, however my performance is, these two human beings still see me as, in the most positive light and as their world. And I love that reminder. I love just keeping in perspective that this is something that has added a lot to my life, but it's not the end all be all. And I'd say it's also just helped me to be really focused, organized, and compartmentalized with my training. And I think I operate really well in that regard, whether it's like with work. I've always worked alongside my athletic exploits, and that's really helps me to kind of organize my schedule, to know to not procrastinate the training or to not procrastinate the work, just to kind of have, to be focused. So I've appreciated that that's just kind of gone up another level with kids, and especially trying to do it alongside my husband. I mean, we are like a spreadsheet family. Today I was actually working on our childcare spreadsheet for the upcoming travel that we have, and it's a total puzzle, but it's when we can pull it all off, it's really fulfilling. And just to be able to do it alongside the kid with the kids, and the whole family together, it's just this like special feeling that I know is maybe a season of life that I just really want to savor, because it may not be forever, but it's been really fun.
I couldn't relate more. I'm also a mom, and definitely it makes the bigger picture much bigger, knowing that, you have this to come home to, and it's much bigger than any race, but also pushes us as well because they are so proud of us. I remember once I was running the Miami Marathon, and there's like 30,000 people running. And my daughter's like, Mommy, are you going to win? And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, of course I know I won't, but I'm like, I don't think so, honey, but I'm going to try my best. And I came home with my finisher medal, and she's just like, I knew you were going to win.
Oh,
But I couldn't break her heart. So I just went along with it. And yeah, and I think the structure around the schedule also helped me keep my
yeah.
training more focused.
I'll say, yeah, it's an added level of efficiency. I mean, it's made maybe my rides a little less leisurely, or kind of the coffee stops have been fewer, and the kind of like, yeah, just, I leave with a sitter window of 4 hours, and I know I want to make the most of that, every minute of that 4 hours. So anytime I have to stop, it's just kind of has to be like extra quick. Um, but it really, and at the same time, that makes you make the most of every minute that you have, and kind of just be really efficient with everything you're doing. So
Yeah,
that's been my
that's true. That's a
experience.
good point. I couldn't really have many stops because I was also paying a sitter, which was so funny searching for a sitter because I'm like, I everybody thinks you want them at the evenings. I'm like, no, you need to start at 5 a.m.
Exactly. Those 5 a.m. sitters are really tough to find.
Yeah.
When you find them,
Yeah,
you don't let them go.
exactly. And then you're paying them by the hour. So a coffee ride gets very expensive.
I know. It's hard to think about sometimes. Sometimes I can't think about how much that bike ride ended up costing. And you just have to think about it in the bigger picture of like, the investment in your emotional health, mental health, everything that you're getting from it is more than just that bike ride.
Yeah, yeah. And what has surprised you the most about returning to cycling post babies?
I think, oh,
Well, actually,
one
I shouldn't
thing
say return to cycling because you cycle through your pregnancies.
I
So you really didn't take much time off, if any.
no, you're right. I did not. And I think, I have been such a staunch advocate of maintaining identity through, because I was so kind of fearful that might be taken from me during my pregnancy. I think what I failed to consider is that I would that even though I still love pursuing my interests and my hobbies and my work and anything apart from my kids, I failed to realize and the amount of joy that would come from watching them achieve their goals or their milestones, and that time away from the things I'm wanting to pursue is equally gratifying and joyful, if not more. And that it wouldn't feel like, it wouldn't feel like a sacrifice to not get in something that was, achieving my goal, or not to get in that bike ride or whatever it might be, because I care so much about these little human beings. So I knew that everybody says that is the case. And it's hard to fully grasp that until experiencing it myself and realize that like self-sacrifice is a lot easier once you love these kids so much.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a sacrifice, but like you said,
No.
there is that mental challenge of maintaining your identity, which I think is important, because I see some women, which is fine, it's great. They're just moms and they love being a mom and being defined as a mom, which is great. But I feel like you, I also am a wife and a cyclist and a friend, and I have different jobs. And I also, I didn't want to lose any of that.
Yes. And I feel like I show up the best as a parent to my children by being balanced in everything within my life, by being able to give my energy in these other capacities. And then it's like I gain energy from my other pursuits, and I'm a better, happier, healthier mom to them once I have done that and poured a little bit into
Absolutely.
myself in those arenas.
How old is Hazel now?
Hazel just had her 5th birthday.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
think when my daughter was around 5 or 6, she did question me. She's just like, at the time I was doing triathlons as well. So she's asked me, like, why you always swim, bike, and run? And then I just tried to put to her level. And I said, how, why do you like going to the park? And
Exactly.
she clicked. She understood. She's like, oh, I get it. Okay. So,
Yeah. Oh, we just yesterday have had, from time to time, our kids are very used to us leaving for bike rides or leaving for traveling to races, but they have their moments of just yesterday, Hazel broke down in tears and for whatever reason said she was really sad that I was leaving for my bike ride. And, um, sometimes that's just due to kind of changing schedules, and we had just kind of taken a vacation a few weeks ago, and I think that kind of set off some of these feelings. But um I also try to frame it around, like, mom and dad have to go to work, and this is a part of cycling, as we are very grateful, has been a little bit a part of our work and what we do. And so our kids are starting to understand what, the importance of work and why we have to work. So I think that helps them to understand that a little bit more.
yeah. And I think it builds a great foundation for them as well to find who they are and their individuality. And it's not just sacrificing everything for one person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have been a huge advocate for women. I know you have done a lot of work in some races and bring in communities and clinics. What are some of the biggest barriers you see, and how can the community help break them down?
Yeah. I mean, I guess just to even back it up a little bit further, before some some of the biggest work that I feel like I've done in women's cycling, um, it was related to our cycling gravel event, Rooted Vermont. And the whole reason that came about is because, gosh, this is back in 2018 and 19. Gravel is just still kind of a burgeoning category of cycling, and
Yeah.
the general female participation was usually averaged around 20%. And we meaning my community, the friends that I ride with, we were just like, how can we help achieve gender equity within, especially this brand new race that we're going to put on. And I think the biggest barrier, especially because, we ended up having around 100 women that would come to this event, and we kind of capped it, but we received over like 200 applications. And by and large, the most frequent comment was, the only person I have to ride with, or the introduction to riding has been through my husband, my boyfriend, my partner, my brother. But very few, or it was clear that women were looking for other women to connect with, for other women to mentor them, for women to show them what was possible when they're able to see themselves through another person. I think there's so much power in that. And we saw that time and year after year when we would go have this retreat weekend, this clinic weekend, and we would have, the leaders show a new skill or demonstrate something. I think it was easier for women to cross the barrier of like the fear or maybe whatever insecurities they had when they saw it modeled by another woman. And that was really powerful. And just the community and connections that were fostered. I think women weren't just looking to build skill, but they very much were looking to be connected to other women who could showcase what was possible. And so there was a lot of power in that. And the community that grew from that was really special.
So Rooted Vermont, it was the turning point for you.
Yeah, it just opened my eyes to what was possible when you bring together a group of women. And, it was cool because the community that was built through that Rooted clinic then 1 month later would come together again at our event. And I just saw that community. Throughout the year at different different gravel events, those people were meeting up and making more connections, and it was just building on itself. So that was really exciting. I would say, one particular example, a friend of our family who I was not very connected with until she came to the Rooted clinic. She had a relationship with cycling about a decade prior, had 2 kids, really just was a super focused and attentive mom, a stay-at-home mom. But she would say that she lost herself a bit through that process and kind of her own passions and desires, and came to this clinic, didn't have the right equipment, said she got to the clinic and had a hard time getting out of the car and just really wanted to drive home because she felt so insecure about her abilities and her equipment and everything that but she forced herself to go. And apparently at the skill clinic, I made some comment to her that was affirming. She did something really well. And I said, hey, I think it was like bunny hopping. You did really, that was really amazing. And she said that one comment encouraged her to come back the next day. And she felt built up from that. And then 2 years later, here she is. She's speaking at the Rooted Women's Clinic. She's become a leader within the community. She's talked about how she's found her own identity, and she's not just a mom, and that she has her own passions. Now she's pursuing all kinds of athletic endeavors and challenging herself, and her kids are following in her footsteps. It's honestly been a huge transformation and just amazing to see that journey. And if that's just one person, you imagine that happening to many, many others. It's changing lives and
families.
That
You change
yeah,
this one
and
person
families. In fact, her husband signed up. He got motivated for getting fit. He did a triathlon. It's completely changed their family. Yeah. So just that kind of transformation has been really, really neat to observe and be a part of.
Amazing. And have you seen a shift in more women participating in Rooted Vermont and as well as other races?
Well, we had 50% female participation at Rooted Vermont, and I don't know if you know, but
Wow.
Rooted Vermont is no longer being. We ended the last
Oh, was the last one
edition
last year?
20. It was two. Hold on,
2023?
2022.
20, oh,
Last one
okay.
was in 2022. Yeah, 6 weeks after my or six. Yeah, 6 weeks after my son was born. Um, but we're really proud of what we did build and the legacy, I guess, that continues and the community that was built from it. And but yeah, certainly there's so much growth through, there's this this clinic and work was just one small example of I think so much progress that's happening all across the country. And um, the participation, certainly, I don't know the stats anymore, but I know that women's participation is certainly on average higher than 20% now. And I think we still have a lot of room to grow, but there's a lot of progress to be celebrated.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of those clinics or community strengthening the women participating in sports. That's actually how I kind of got started. I used to ride as well, but not competitively. It was more like just leisure. And I found it like completely blind to what racing is. And I contacted this group of female writers, and then I learned it was this huge community where they had the racers, but they welcomed any women that wanted to ride, and they had charity rides and they had clinics, and it was really encouraging because you can also find someone more or less on your level or someone else stronger but wants to mentor you. I think I shared this before, but one of the girls in the team, I mentioned like, oh, I really wish could do a triathlon, but it's so intimidating for me. And she's just like, if you want to do it, I'll go on the start line with you and we can do all three together. And that's how I started.
That is the biggest gift. In fact, that's my story too. Before cycling, I was a triathlete for over 12 years. And the reason I got into triathlon was my roommate her family she'd grown up around her parents competing in triathlon. And I was really intrigued to learn that she was going to sign up for a race. And the first thing she said to me is, because I expressed kind of my insufficiencies and feeling nervous about signing up for something. And she said, I'll just do it with you. I'll stay with you the whole time. And just that she did. And just that example and somebody coming alongside me, made it all possible and set off honestly, an entire, like, probably new trajectory for my life, which ended up transpiring into all kinds of, you know, avenues of athletic endeavors. So yeah, her name was Lindsay, and she made a big impact in
Thank you,
where this
Lindsay.
journey has gone.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It makes a huge difference. I remember finishing that triathlon and I think, wow, I did it. I actually can do this. And like you, I never stopped. But you had and still has an impressive journey in competitive triathlons, road racing, gravel racing. Um, how was your experience in triathlon, and when you made to the World Championships? How was that?
Yeah, I had a background in competitive swimming that led to me to kind of a natural transition to triathlon, which I joined the triathlon club in college at the University of Washington. And I remember starting into the sport and hearing fellow kind of club members talking about these half Ironmans and Ironmans and thinking, well, that just sounds beyond crazy, really. And then, just experiencing that transition of you complete a sprint triathlon and then your eyes become open to maybe you're capable of more. Maybe you can complete an Olympic, and then you go through that progression of, well, if I can do that, maybe I can do a half Ironman, and if I can do that, maybe I can do an Ironman. So I just really enjoyed that progression of seeing what I was capable of. I've always been an athletic person, but I didn't really get into an organized sport of sorts until finding swimming, which was late for a swimmer. It was not till high school. So I really just kind of thrived in finding this new outlet and friends who also, were enjoying the triathlon journey too. And so I competed in triathlon for a good number of years and completed all the distances, became competitive. I did qualify for my pro card at Escape from Alcatraz in the Bay Area and eventually
Wow.
moved to the Bay Area. But at that point, I actually decided not to pursue triathlon on an elite level. I think I had achieved a lot of my goals and was feeling a little bit burned out. I think I threw myself into triathlon so wholeheartedly that became a little bit of the rigidity started to wear on me and take away a little bit of the joy. I also struggle in the heat a lot and just like, for example, at the Ironman World Championships, it was such a highlight of my life to attend and to compete. But the conditions there are like my ultimate nemesis. Humidity is just, it's worse than altitude for me. So I spent the marathon throwing up, and then I
Oh no.
was in the med tent for hours afterwards, getting anti-nausea meds and still not being able to stop throwing up. And really, I was really getting sick post any kind of efforts over 8 hours continuously. So I think that also had something to do with it. Whereas I've experienced that a lot less at bike events. But yeah, a lot of life just kind of coincided in the right ways to kind of bring me to more of a cycling focus. And that was like my career was changing. I was working in the sports nutrition world and got a great opportunity to work for GU Energy Labs and was a national sales manager there. And then through that, eventually was living in the Bay Area, and then eventually met Ted, my husband. And so I spent a lot more time consequently riding than running or swimming. And that kind of led me to more of a cycling focus.
Yeah, I think a lot of us from triathlon get burned out eventually. Some people take a break, some people come back because it is a lot of hours. There's even this saying, um, if you're married and you're training for an Ironman and you still married, you didn't
Yeah.
train hard enough.
Oh, I've heard that, and I've seen it constantly. But you know what? I still love the sport so much. I still kind of think about competing again in a triathlon. In fact, Gravel Worlds in Nebraska this year has a gravel triathlon, and it's really hot and humid there. So I'm probably not going to do their main event that's actually quite long. And so I told the race director, the fact that I don't need a time trial bike and I can do this on a gravel bike, I think this might be my first triathlon in 10 years.
Oh,
So
that would be fun.
I would be really excited to do it. So you never know.
Cool. Yeah, I never
Yeah.
know. And you mentioned you have worked for GU, you have worked in many different areas of the cycling industry. What excites you most about the future of the sport, since you have been in so many different facets of it?
Like the sport just of cycling in
Yeah.
general. Oh, I think what comes to mind is seeing so much more of an investment in the women's side of things. Just looking at for an example, at like what Zwift has done with the women's tour. Um, there are more and more companies just putting their money where their mouth is. And I now work for a by women for women brand called Parity Sport. We make performance underwear for women.
Oh, nice.
And, we're still just this kind of bootstrap startup, but working for a CEO who, I mean, that's exactly what she does is she makes the right decisions, for the women who represent us, the athletes who represent us, for the causes that we are about, like, and to be able to work for a company. And the reason I was even attracted to work for her, she had originally been in contact with me to be an ambassador. And the more I learned about the company, and the more I thought, this company is checking all the boxes of what, things I would be excited about and want a company to be about, to be excited about, like, to be passionate about what I'm essentially selling, right? Marketing and selling. And so that has been extremely gratifying. So in my day to day, getting to work with athletes I admire, not just within cycling, but within the running scene and all sorts of different sports, and to celebrate what they're doing and to support what they're doing. And I just, yeah, it's something that it doesn't feel like it is work, but it feels like very gratifying work.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's wonderful when we are able to align our values individually and to what we do and to who we work for. And yeah, absolutely. The women taking off in cycling. I think it was last week. Doesn't matter. Um, Strada Bianchi. I was watching the women's race. And
Uh-huh.
I'm like, what about the men's race? And they're like, oh, you already started. And I couldn't believe that they didn't put on the men's race until the women finished and podium. So I was very happy for that, because usually they just either don't show or cut off because the men are starting. So
Right.
that
Yeah,
was,
there is
there's
progress.
hope.
I mean, and I watched a lot of cyclocross this season, which I haven't done in past years, and I mostly just watched the women's races because I found them to be so much more dynamic and interesting than the men's. Um, but yeah, the equal coverage was there, and that was wonderful to see, and getting to watch all the pre and post race interviews that were also balanced with the women and the men. I mean, yes, we should have been there years ago, but to be still making progress and seeing that is really, really good.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So now I would love to talk Unbound. And you transitioned to gravel, and you secured third place on Unbound 100.
Hmm.
You did so well. You are doing so well on gravel. I want to talk Unbound, but I also so excited to know what you're planning for 2025, if there's anything big that you're going to be participating in. But anyways, knowing you made the podium, how did it feel crossing that finish line?
Oh, making a podium at an event like that is always a highlight. There were a lot of women that lined up that I look up to and admire. So to be standing alongside them always feels good. Um, my biggest highlight last year was probably attending the UCI Gravel Worlds in Belgium and getting to compete in the elite field. That was sort of probably will be one of my lifetime highlights in sport, and definitely an experience where, I really had to battle imposter syndrome. And here I am, this, like, at the time 41-year-old mom of two, lining up. I mean, just looking at the start list of 138 women, you're just I recognize most of the names on the list. Most of them are competing as professionals full time, and it's hard to not think, wait a second, I don't really belong here. And I really was, like, concerned that I was going to get last place. So, like, not just the fact that I got to had the opportunity to line up there and to line up with Ted, who also had the chance to compete, but to have kind of, like, battled those feelings and fears and insecurities and gone through the process and surprised myself and realized, we're capable of more than we think. And I think women in general often underestimate themselves, and we all have so many people on the start line are feeling those same insecurities, but it's hard to remember that and hard to keep that in mind, when your fears seem so right in front of you. That's all you can see. So that just felt like not just a highlight race, but a real kind of like, here I am. I've been competing in endurance sports for 2 decades, a very long time, and I'm still experiencing that, that growth, um, of being able to kind of grow within my, uh, I guess, pushing outside my comfort zone and realizing you are capable of more than you think you are.
Which is amazing. I'm glad to see you on the gravel scene. And it's crazy to hear that you have had those feelings and felt that way, because for me, you are, on a big pedestal. So it's hard to believe, but I understand that a lot of us, have our own insecurities. But I'm glad you went there, showed up, and you had a great day out on the bike. Did you had any tactics or strategies for the race?
Oh my, it was I think one of the most intimidating parts of the race was that within the first K of the start, it funneled completely down to like a small walking path. And so positioning was just, we having the fact that I had very few UCI points. Most of the Americans we were all at the back. So knowing we were starting at the back was just like, it was hard to imagine how we were going to make any progress considering
Yeah.
the beginning. Um, but what I loved about the style of that race and many of the UCI races is it is so tactical, and it is so, um, it's more heavily reliant upon technical skills, which some North American races aren't as much. And that's something that I think I excel in. So also there was a major like punchiness to the race. There was I can't count the number of times I was, sprinting out of corners, which also doesn't happen in a lot of, especially like the Midwest or Unbound type races. I wish that was something we got to experience more in the US, because I love that kind of style of racing. It makes me realize that I think there are parts of road racing I would have really excelled at, and that window is kind of closed for opportunity to be a road racer. But I can see what would be so fun and dynamic for that style of racing. So I love that. And it was just interesting. I mean, a point to point race is always a highlight. To have fans alongside an entire course is something completely new. So all those things were really novel, to see constant fans alongside cheering. And to be also like, there were times within the race, I'm like, Tiffany Cromwell was in our group, Allison Jackson. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
can't believe I'm amidst these people that that I look to as um, legends of the sport. And, I don't think they were having their best days, but apart from that, I don't really care. I was excited to be riding in their midst and to just get to trade pulls and to experience the race in that kind of capacity. I guess there was a highlight where um, I was alone for a while and someone caught me from behind and ended up, this is with like 10K to go, and she ended up passing me at the end, but I came to find out it was Sana Kant. I mean, one of the
Wow.
biggest Belgian cyclocross
Oh,
legends. So it
yeah.
was really cool to be a fan of the sport and then suddenly be racing amongst these people I watch on TV and who
Yeah.
have had such storied careers and histories in the
I
sport.
think that's what I love about gravel. You're rubbing shoulders with iconic people.
Yeah,
It's really cool. It's
it
really cool.
is. Well, as it pertains to 2025, and feelings of imposter syndrome or insecurities, I mentioned I struggle in the heat and humidity, and I've raced Unbound 100 twice successfully, and Unbound 200 once unsuccessfully. I DNF'd it, and a lot of that was due to the heat and humidity and how I react to it. And also the mass start, which is no longer happening. I think the tactics for a mass start are that you have to go out really, really hard so that you're getting on the fastest wheels, and getting that advantage in the beginning. And it's extremely dangerous and
Yeah.
dicey, but also it has, if you have any kind of heat sensitivity, proclivities, it's the worst way to start a race because your core temperature is like
Yeah.
skyrocketing right away. So I'm really excited about the change of, and I feel I'm surprised at myself to say this because I used to really enjoy the mass start. I loved racing, the dynamic of racing men and women together. But as gravel became more competitive and really it became more dangerous, and now
Yeah.
that I really try to manage my risk as a mom, I'm happy about the change and excited to see, just the women get the opportunity to race on their own. And I think having uh, watched that last year with the women's 200, um, they though they had a really fast race, they did say that the beginning carried out in a lot more controlled manner. And so I've signed up for the 200 and I've hardly told a soul because I'm still extremely nervous. I'm working with a nutritionist. Her name's Kyla Chanel, and she's going to help me take another stab at kind of managing my heat training and figuring out, what I can do to try to minimize the sickness that I often get. Um, and I hate having unfinished business. And it's bothered me. So I'd like to finish the 200. And I feel like, I'm really, really, really hoping that the weather in the last couple of years has been a little bit more temperate and not as like suffocatingly hot, but you just never know in Emporia. It can be so brutal. So it'd be really nice if that works out for me this year, that we just have another good weather year, and hopefully I can check that box.
How exciting. Thanks for sharing that. I'll be cheering for
Yeah.
you and hopefully it won't be too hot. But like I said, we never know. And also the weather has been so unpredictable lately. You never know it's going to be hot or cold,
Oh my goodness.
sunshine or
Well, this
rain.
past weekend in Oklahoma was a prime example of that. Did you catch wind about
What
what happened
happened?
at Mid South?
No.
Okay, so this last weekend was Mid South. Probably the biggest race to kind of kick off the gravel season, and it's in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
we flew the whole family there. 60-mile-an-hour winds the day before and really hot conditions stirred up wildfires in the area, and
Wow.
the entire town, most of the town became under evacuation. People who were there for the race were evacuated from their hotels.
Wow, that's
We
crazy.
packed up all of our things ready to evacuate because the fires were just a couple of miles from our house. The air outside was so smoky and it just looked apocalyptic, and we didn't know what to do. So it was a pretty scary situation, and the race ended up being
I
canceled.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not safe. I
So
mean, you can race breathing the air.
right, and the whole town was in emergency mode. I mean, there have been now there have been, a bunch of fundraising efforts, but just completely unexpected, and just another example of, this is not the first time this has happened. I think there were wildfires that canceled another race last year. Crusher and the Tusher and the Crusher, however it is, however you say it. um, yeah, so it's kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, hopefully something changes so things get better because it's really crazy out there. Like even here, there's not any catastrophic changes. But as we were chatting earlier, it's been raining for 3 weeks. This never happens in Spain, especially in Girona. It's usually super mild and nice weather. So everywhere seems to be a little bit different and changing.
Yeah.
But back to Unbound. Uh, well, it's exciting that you're also doing the nutrition as well as trying to do some heat training. I'm curious to know more about that. Do you know what are you going to be doing for? How do you acclimate to that? Because
Yeah.
you're in Vermont, which is
Yeah, exactly.
very
Which is
mild.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a challenging place to train for Unbound as it is, because honestly, our spring really isn't fully spring till May. So I did, when I was kind of talking to my husband, Ted, about should I take this on or not, I said I would have an easier time committing if I knew that we were going to have a little bit of heat training, like real heat training, in the couple of weeks leading up to the race. And we always go to Gravel Locos, which is usually 2 weeks before the race, but this year it's only one. And that's in Hico, Texas. And that generally is pretty warm conditions. So we decided to go out a week even. We're going to go to Emporia 2 weeks before the race, 2 weeks before the race. Drive to Hico, Texas for Gravel Locos, which is just 8 hours away, and then come back to Emporia. So we're going to have a solid 2 weeks.
A solid
in
block,
the heat.
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to start doing some indoor training in a painter suit, just basically sweating in
I've seen those,
in it. And, my husband, he handles heat a lot better than I do, but he did train through the winter purely on the indoor trainer because we had a very wintry winter. And he used this heat training protocol, just, usually just ending a training ride with a 45-minute ride, kind of taken down a notch in terms of effort, but putting on this painter suit. And he went to Rwanda, where it was pretty humid and warm.
Yeah, I done that race.
Race around Rwanda you have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How cool. I didn't even know anything about it until he just did it, which it looks amazing. But he adapted to those conditions really well. And so, there's so much really good science now showing that however you go about it, whether you actually have the ability to go train in hot conditions, or you can mimic some heat training in a sauna or bathtub or painter suit, whatever it is, those both of those scenarios can be beneficial too.
That's really great. I love the heat. Heat and humidity are my friends, not the cold. And so sometimes even when I'm training indoors as well, I don't even turn the fan on. I like to have a good heat session and a good sweat. I don't have the suit, but
I would say I hate being cold. I mean, that's actually one of my biggest the things in life I hate the most. But it's just funny. My reaction in exercise to heat is just my body. Even though I like it, my body doesn't react well. Unfortunately, my heart rate skyrockets, and I just tend to get really nauseous. So I'm hoping, you would think with a couple decades that I've been doing this sport, that I would have put more effort into that aspect. But I really think, number one, I've had the excuse of just sort of thinking I'm just genetically predispositioned to not be good in the heat. And that is probably true, but I don't think that I've given it a proper effort to do what I can to adapt. And I think, I think my excuse has also just been sort of, I'm busy and those details sometimes go by the wayside. And it's nice to be in a position to take a good look at, like, hey, okay, this didn't go well for me before, and I really would like it to go decently well for me this time. So I really need to be more kind of focused on the details and give some more energy to this. So thankfully having someone kind of come alongside me and give me some guidance and accountability, I think will help me with that.
Yeah, you're very determined. I'm sure you'll conquer it. And heat, I guess it's like altitude, right? You have to condition. Yeah. Some people are not predisposed to tolerate, and you can train that. I'm sure you'll conquer it.
True. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other
confidence?
Any other race challenge that it's on your bucket list for someday?
Ooh, oh man, I am intrigued by is it called? I think it's called Swiss Epic, which is a mountain bike stage race. I'm really intrigued by mountain bike stage races. I've done Breck Epic a number of years ago, which is
Cool.
in the Colorado Rockies, but I would love to do the Swiss Epic, or I would love to do the BC Bike Race, which is a 7-day stage race in British Columbia. I really do enjoy mountain biking, and I enjoy like the technical aspect to it. I love big mountains. Jess, Sarah, and I, and people have ever heard me talk, have probably heard this story too often, but we did a 4-day adventure through the San Juan Mountains out of Durango, Colorado. So mostly above 10,000 feet. I'm
Wow.
actually sitting here at my desk. I look up and there's a big picture of the huge mountains in our trip, but it was a real lifetime highlight, and a major push outside of our comfort zones, just in terms of like very remote riding, navigation, filtering our own water and carrying carrying all of our supplies, and really riding over 10 hours a day, kind of in, what's really difficult terrain, pushing our bike a lot. So, as I get older, adventures like that are that's something I'm really drawn to, and would love to try to get on my calendar this year, hopefully, to do something else just like that, where it's not necessarily a race, but just, you know, continuing kind of to push outside my own comfort zone and learn new aspects of the sport. And that was one adventure that forced me to, I wasn't quite ready for like full on camping in the middle of the wilderness at the same time as riding those immense hours. And but that's probably the next step, right? So Jess and I took that step to just kind of, all right, we'll push outside of our comfort zone this much. And then maybe the next time we'll push outside a little bit more. And so something like that, just we felt really independent. We felt really strong and capable. The high alpine zones in Colorado are just like a whole different kind of riding and territory, and super vast and magnificent. So it was really, really something I'll never forget.
Sounds incredible. I love those trips. And I just did one. I also have my cycling BFF. And I love that feeling too of like being super self-accomplished and self-sufficient. And we just did together. She was also, Juliet showing me the ropes, because it was my first trip that we actually did wild camping.
Uh-huh.
I think you'll love it if you love the mountains. I mean, I was also a little bit apprehensive, shower and this and that, but just waking up in the mountains, and just being amongst nature, it's really magical. We did stay in a few, what's it called? Those camping sites every
Mm-hmm.
other night or so, or every 2 nights, because it's nice to have a place to charge everything and take a shower.
Right.
But the wild camping, it's really, really nice.
Well, I'll report back once I give it a try.
Wonderful. Any exciting projects or collaboration in the works that we should keep an eye out for?
Oh, that's a great question. Right now, my focus is getting through the first weekend in June, and hopefully, which is pretty packed. I'm right prior to getting on this call with you, I told you I was working on this like childcare spreadsheet, because we kind of in a couple weeks here leave for California, and we'll be there for 2 weeks, racing Sea Otter and Levi's Fondo, or now called the Growler, and then off to Arkansas, which is Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is a UCI gravel qualifying race, and then that kicks off Texas and Kansas for Gravel Locos and Unbound. So after that, I take a little bit of our whole family has decided we take a little bit of a mid-season break. We go to an island off of the coast of Maine and have some family time. We're you can't even ride your bike on the island. So we just have a trainer on the porch.
Wow.
And then we'll kind of like dial in what the next few months after that look like. And, you know, I'm kind of eager to hear where Gravel Worlds, the UCI Gravel Worlds race is going to be now that Nice is canceled.
Yeah, we all are waiting for this.
Really curious what the next location will be. And like I said, curious to kind of try to schedule in an adventure on mountain bikes. And yeah, then I think that will kind of tell or help figure out what the rest of the year looks like.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, you guys have a busy schedule, busy family, so a lot to figure it out. And it seems already packed. So
well, that's kind of, yeah, it's a little bit, I think past June, I get a little bit overwhelmed if I have to think about, you know, already the next few months are going to be a lot and really exciting, but just so much in terms of like logistics, where bikes are going. I happen to have a road bike and a mountain bike in California, which is very convenient. And then like my gravel bike is already went from Oklahoma to Arkansas. And so between my bikes and Ted's bikes and packing for family and making sure the kids are, you know, going to have fun on the trips, it's a real puzzle sometimes, but it's fun when everything kind of seems to seamlessly.
Yeah, it looks like you guys are having fun.
We are, for sure.
Laura, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and I am going to be watching you on the Unbound 200 this year for sure.
Thank you, Juliana. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And that's all for today's episode. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends.